And no, you're not crazy. Your supervisor is batshit crazy and they suck at their job. Let's get into the Peter Principle. Hola, Venters. We're 2/3 of the way done with our 90-day challenge, and I hope you guys are keeping up with me. We went through Dunbar's number, we went through the Hawthorne effect, and today we're going to talk about the Peter Principle. In 1969, Dr. Laurence Peter, a Canadian, I think he's a professor, wrote the Peter Principle, which basically says,
I saw that very often competent people, the competent individual, was promoted to something he couldn't do.
The Peter Principle was a book written in 1969 by Dr. Laurence J. Peter, who I believe was Canadian, and he passed away in 1990. But I thought his principle was really kind of funny because it's very much true. I was always in sales my whole life, and you would always see these really good salesmen get promoted to the supervisor or managerial role where they ended up sucking. And the Peter Principle dictates that in a hierarchical setting, such as the corporate world, you're gonna basically get promotions until you hit a level of incompetence.
I went to a library looking for a book, and I noticed that all the books on pregnancy were stored on a shelf down by the floor. Probably the people that needed them most couldn't even see them.
When he says it like that, it makes you chuckle, it makes you laugh, but it's so true. The one thing I always think about is those athletes. You get this great basketball player. He knows how to play defense, he's a really good teammate, he's so positive, everybody in the community loves him. He becomes the head coach after he retires, and pretty soon you can't stand the guy because he can't win a ball game. It's almost like certain things translate to get you to that next step, but you weren't really prepared for that next step in the first place. By the way, if you're new to the channel, we have a walking channel, and it's a channel that I would love to have you join me and walk with us every single day. But at the same time, I'm on these really neat topics that are stimulating me, and I hope they stimulate your mind as well. If you have a principle or an effect or anything that you would like me to check out and maybe make for a future show, let me know down below. God bless it. Now my mind is going to take it a little backwards here. I want you to imagine that your boss just watched a video on the Peter Principle, right? He's watching this and he's saying, my goodness, I've got Sean and I've got Mala up for promotion. I can only give it to one of them. Well, normally Sean, who is the better salesman than Mala, would get that role. But your boss might have just seen the Peter Principle video, and he might be thinking, you know what, I would be a fool to take my best salesman off the floor. Instead, I'm going to give him a little raise, and I'm going to give Mala that position. For all you know, this might be part of the reason why you didn't get some of those promotions in the past. Certainly, I can't be the only person that stumbled on the Peter Principle, even though I got to admit, before today, I had never ever heard of the Peter Principle, but I have heard of me wanting a promotion in the past that another person got, and I always felt like I deserved it more. Maybe that's why I didn't get it, because your boss probably wants to turn a profit, and in my case, being in sales, it probably made a lot more sense for me to stay in sales. By the way, I did have one particular call center that I worked at where I was the manager, and one of the first thing I noticed is that all those people that I was friends with and I hung out with and I partied with during the my previous time as an employee, those same people all of a sudden, in many cases, despised me. So I've told you guys this before, when given the option of getting a supervisorial role or some sort of promotion, I have been very slow to jump on those because I find that a lot of times they don't pay nearly what you think, and you end up losing a lot of your free time, and your friends might not be worth it. But if you do ever get promoted and then you feel very average, like you have imposter syndrome and you don't really belong, maybe the Peter principle kind of applies to you, and you have enough self-awareness to at least know you've kind of hit the top of your ladder or your ceiling. Now let's look at it from your supervisor Dale's point of view. Dale was a kick-butt salesman. He used to make a lot of good money. Now he feels like he's been abandoned in management. He barely sees a raise. His hours get longer and longer every year, and he's pretty miserable. Pretty soon, instead of fresh ideas, half the time he just complains and tries to give you all the hours on the weekends when you'd rather be home with your family. I think that's what happens to supervisors like Dale all around the country. And if you've been a manager for a while and you're wondering why life sucks, it might be because of this very reason. Your boss finally realized you're not good enough to be promoted anymore. By the way, this Peter principle in and of itself seems like something from yesteryear, because we live in a world where people don't even really get promoted very much anymore. As a matter of fact, what's the number one strategy we've all heard over the past decade or so for getting ahead in the workplace? We've all heard that you quit your job and you go get paid elsewhere. That's the new world strategy. The only problem is now no one else is hiring, so it doesn't work. Maybe people are going to revert back to trying to be promoted. So in closing, the next time you're up for a promotion that you totally deserve, take out a sheet of paper and a pen and write down the pros and cons, or do what I would recommend. Put your shoes on, go for a walk, and ask yourself, is this change really worth it? If you really want to make more money, maybe you put your resume out there on the marketplace and you find out what you're actually worth. But either way, whatever you do, just make sure that you try to do your homework and make the best decision that you can. Venavidi Vortici says, I meet such people every day where I work, and quite often several times a day. I think that happens a lot of times whenever you say, hey, I don't like what this employee is telling me, get me your manager. Then you get the manager and you realize they're even more incompetent than the employee was. It's probably because, they've hit their limit and they're probably just kind of walking through their day in zombie mode. We all do that, don't we? We have those days where we're just kind of going through it in autopilot. That's what happens with a lot of these middle management people. They end up going through the day in autopilot. And when you're going through anything on cruise control, you're probably not putting your best foot forward at all. The satisfied customer says the Peter principle definitely has its place in workplace theories. All these things are starting to make sense if you apply these little ideas to them. This is why our managers always seem so damn out of touch. You tell your manager, hey, I asked you 18 times not to put me on the weekend shift because I'd like to be able to visit with my family on the weekends, and it doesn't seem to register. It's because he or she is brain dead. Scaredy Fight says, this is why I don't want to be a manager. Unfortunately, management is the only way to get decent pay. Wouldn't it be funny if this guy was a manager and you found out that all of his people underneath him thought he was a fool? I think whenever you're in a supervisory type role, you're always going to have people that don't care for you too much. I think what you got to do is just put your head down, do a good job, and whatever happens, happens. Sometimes you'll find out that even when you ask people just to be decent with you, hey, I'm your supervisor, I'm not your boss, try to respect me, do A, B, and C, you'll find out that even doing A, B, and C is just impossible for some people. I feel like there's always going to be an antagonist in your life. And if there is no antagonist in your life, you probably have poor health and you need to walk and get healthier. Quit eating so much damn sugar. Where'd that come from? I asked myself that same question. Beardo Dumas says, I'd recommend everyone read the Peter Principle book. When I was watching this video, I was looking at a couple different comments, and various people said, hey, I read this book back in the 70s, and it still applies to this very day. And it is kind of interesting because a lot of times when you do talk to a supervisor or manager, sometimes you get one that just really seems to know their stuff, and other times you seem to get a deer in the headlights. So I love these little things. Again, if you are walking with me on the daily and you'd like me to check out something like the placebo effect or something or another, let me know. I can do it as soon as the next couple days. I find them really fun. ChatGPT found me a couple hundred of them. So that's my game plan, to share a lot of fun ones with you. I feel like the Peter Principle is something that we've all known inherently ever since our first couple of jobs, right? We've seen incompetence before, but we never really knew that somebody actually made a principle and a book about it, and that's what happened. There's principalities involved. Anyway, thank you for walking with me, guys. I love walking with you. If you feel the same, hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you share this video, and let's do it again tomorrow. I'll see you then.